Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Anime Night in the Dojo. Today's featured show, Slime, Season 4.
Yep, Slime, Season 4, Episode 1. Welcome back to the Dojo. I'm Ryu. That's Age. We're back for more Anime Night in the Dojo. And, well, can you guys believe it's been 2 years since Slime?
2 years without a meeting?
2 years without a meeting. Holy crap. Well, I guess to be fair, it's more like a year and a half because the last season was also 2 cores and it went from like spring of 24 to like October of 24. You know what I mean? So it's been like a year and a half, a little over a year and a half. But still, crazy. Absolutely crazy. It feels like we just finished it, honestly. And we're back for it. I'm excited for this. This is one of my favorite shows, even if it's like not like arguably one of the best shows out there. I think it's still pretty good and I enjoy it. But
it's one of the better isekais, at very least.
Yeah. So either way, I'm excited for this one. Hopefully it doesn't turn out as meeting heavy as season 3. We talked about that last season. I would say go watch our stuff from last season on that. But in case you're finding us from last time, we're on a new channel. Check out our intro video that explains it, or the first video on this channel that explains what the hell happened. Don't really want to go into that again. So, at some point, I will be running Twitch streams and potentially YouTube streams at the same time that just has all of our old content just cycling so people can watch it, because I'm not re-uploading another. We almost got to celebrate our 1000th upload.
Yeah. And
we are closing in on being monetized last time. And, well, not so much. So, yeah, that kind of broke a bunch of stuff. So that was what it was. But, we talked about it in season 3. The whole thing I'm getting at is it was a world building thing. I understand it. I'm willing to forgive it. There were still a lot of cool moments in the last season. I would recommend anybody who is very interested in Slime and very invested in the story to check out the gacha game, Isekai Memories, that Fuse writes alongside of this. He writes original story, has an original story for it that's really cool. A lot of the events are tied into what's going on currently with Slime, like their most recent anniversary thing has to do with season 4 and whatnot. That goes alongside the movie. That is just like a little bit of extra information, and you don't have to spend money to see this. Obviously, you can just watch the stories and have like a very basic team and see all the stories. Only the super hard stuff requires any kind of investment. So if you want extra Slime, it's on the Google Play Store. I recommend it. I like the game for the most part. I have some gripes with it, but that's at the super hyper unbelievable end game. So if you're just in it for the stories, you can go in there, play the story, see the other stuff Fuse has written, which is quite good and entertaining, and is just like a little bit of extra information for stuff that's going on. Like in one of the more recent events, they went more into like Benimaru's like conundrum. Remember his conundrum from last season? Yeah, they went into that a little bit more, and that was pretty fun as an event. So
yeah, Fuse also has hidden a handful of random little extra bits in there for like alternate shenanigans and bits of like story that he either cut or that he still considers canon, but it didn't never actually make it into the series, like some of the stuff with the Masked Hero and whatnot.
Right, yeah. So that's just something I always point out. You don't have to try very hard to see the extra Fuse stuff, so that's always nice of them. But no, I'm not sponsored by them. It's just something that if you're super into Slime and you have some extra time, check it out. It's on the Google Play Store. Yeah, you can even get it on PC. That's where I play it, on the Google Play app. So because I don't really do any phone stuff, I can't cope with phone anything. Just
same. Even like all
personal preference.
I still freaking just find PC versions.
Right. So as for that, we wrapped up last season with the Eastern Merchant stuff. Them realizing that Yuki is the problem. The Rotso family, that kind of thing. It'll be interesting to see what they do with that, because I don't think it's going to be a power scaling thing as like the whole series has been leading to, because Rimuru is one of the most powerful beings in this world at this point. So you kind of have to pull like what Yu Yu Hakusho did later in the series and have people with like weird niche-y bullshit powers. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's what the Rotso family is going to be, what Greed is going to be. You know what I mean?
I do know that the power scaling still does go up a bit, at least in this in the final like big arc. I don't know how much. I have only a little bit of like source material knowledge for this final stretch, but I don't really know where a bunch of this stuff takes place in the story. But I do know that there is a power jump on a handful of the characters.
Right. So we'll just have to see what comes of that. And yeah, I mean, we really don't have anything to say going into this other than, you know, just keep doing slime stuff. And at some point, it would be neat if they did another season of Slime Diary. Season that was kind of a neat side series.
Yeah.
We'll just have to see. But something else I have to mention, just general YouTube stuff, and I mentioned this at the beginning of ReZero on Wednesday. We're doing double feature catch-ups for the spring season because of the stuff that happened with Age not being able to be around for various reasons. Because we had a couple other shows slighted, JoJo'd off into the fall for whatever reason, and we figured since we're behind, we really want to catch up on ReZero and Slime. Slime's going to be holding it down on Mondays like Don Machi did on the previous channel, that kind of thing for a while, because this is a 5-core 4th season, and we're getting at least the first 2 cores immediately, and I can't imagine it'll be that long for the 3rd and 4th ones to show up, you know what I mean? Because, you know, production time versus release time and all that stuff, so...
The other show we wanted to do was Sentenced to be a Hero, but we were already kind of iffy on whether or not we were going to be able to do that because it's 2 core and we're already going to be packed on the summer season. But then when we also got delayed, it's not going to be able to happen until like the fall.
Yeah, so that's what's going on with that. So ReZero on Wednesday and Thursday, Slime on Friday and Monday is the usual 4-day stuff. Until we catch up, because based on the math, we should be caught up in about a month or so, a little over a month. And the Crunchyroll player has told me to F off. Big shock. The other thing that I wanted to mention for anybody that's new and stuff that's going on with YouTube, for me personally, I've seen a couple other creators that have talked about this, and I can't have people comment on my videos unless they've been subscribed for at least a day. These things used to be drop downs, or they didn't used to be drop downs when they were first added, like right around the time, like a couple weeks after we started on this channel, like a month or 2 ahead. What happened was YouTube implemented this policy, which they are one to do. They implement a policy without telling anybody, and they just roll it out. I'm sure you guys as users who have used YouTube have dealt with the playlist side and the what's coming next side and all those things that potentially don't get rolled out. But instead of having people opt into like a beta test of something and asking for feedback, you as a random user just get it randomly whether you like it or not. I'm sure some of you out there have rolled into that where you could open YouTube on your primary browser, whatever your primary browser is. I don't care. I'm not shaming anybody's browser choice here. I'm just saying you could open it and say Firefox and it would be the new stuff, and you could open it in Chrome or IE or whatever and it would be the older normal stuff. You know what I mean? So it's just like YouTubing. And my point here is they added a feature to prevent bot spam and, you know, like scam stuff for like the bigger creators and stuff like that, you know, like people who pretend to be like Markiplier in the comments, you know, and say, here's a, you know, click here for a gift card, or, you know, the kind of scammy bullshit. I get it. I get the security stuff. But at the end of the day, for smaller creators, you're probably not going to have that problem. And having that hard locked in for smaller creators like me is ridiculous because I can't turn it off. Okay? Other creators can turn it off. I found Reddit threads and stuff like that. They can turn it off entirely. Anybody of any duration can comment. Or me, and several other people that I've seen online. I don't know how many, several other people that have bothered to post about it. Of course, there might be tens of thousands of other people that create and never post about it, because that's how it works. Is, you know, for me, my thing is I can't turn it off. You have to be subscribed for at least a day to comment. I don't agree with it. I'd love to turn it off. So what I'm getting at here is, people please subscribe so I can turn this stupid setting off. Because I assume if I like get back over a couple hundred subs like we had on the other channel, I should be able to turn it off. So this is my play for help. You know what I mean? I think it's stupid. You know, I know how to moderate my own chat and my own comments. If there's a problem, I'll handle it. You know, it's not a big deal. I only had very, very few negative interactions in my comments throughout the like 4 or 5 years that I have been doing this. So it wasn't a big deal. I don't expect it to be a big deal. Most of the people that hang out around here were solid, you know, non-assholey people. You know what I mean? So if there was, I'd handle it, move on with my day. Not a big deal. So yeah, all I can have it set on is 1 day. Some people can get it down to an hour, which I find weird. My options are always on, 1 day, or 1 week. 1 week to me is even more insane than a day, obviously. You know what I mean? So a lot of creators put out multiple videos a day. Look at Asmongold. He has like 4 or 5 videos a day sometimes, and people can comment, obviously. Imagine like becoming a fan of, say, Asmongold or somebody like that posts multiple videos a day every day from like clips of their stream, and you'd have to be subscribed for a week before you could like make a comment and like ask a question or something. You know what I mean? That's insane.
Yeah, and knowing the attention span of the internet these days, what are the odds of someone who just found your video not being able to interact in it, but then sticks around for a week and then remembers about it and comes back to interact?
Right.
And the majority of people, they either were already invested and interested enough to be in the community of said streamer or whatever, or they're not going to bother.
Yeah. And a lot of people, like, I don't begrudge people for like wanting to get involved somehow or asking a question or what have you before they actually subscribe, which is totally fine. It's reasonable. You know what I mean? Not a big deal to me. But if they're not given that option, then it kind of screws smaller creators over like me. You know what I mean? Like I said, I would just turn it off. I can't. And it got retroactively applied to all my videos. Like there was like a dozen or so videos on the channel that we had done before that change went live. And I was like, I wonder if this affected the previous stuff. And I went back to like, it was like I parry everything or something that we were wrapping up the first ones. And I was like, I'll just go back to the first one, because if it's on the earliest one, it's going to be on all the others, right? Yep. So it just got retroactively turned on. So again, I can't do anything about it until YouTube does something about it potentially or whatever. So until I make a post that says, hey, this thing's gone, assume that's what it's going to be. It's going to be in our intro video. I'm going to talk about that again, but for the new shows that we do, I don't expect everybody to watch everything that we do because they might not be interested in every show that we talk about. So that's totally fine. That's why I have to say this in these 2 videos this week at the beginning. So, you know, help us out, push the subscribe button, and hopefully if we get a couple hundred subs again, I can turn this junk off and I don't have to worry about this again. You know what I mean? So that'll be in our intro video again. The link to that will be down in the description as well to explain how and why we do timer reactions and stuff like that. In short, the very shortest way to put this, because I've been dragging this out, I apologize, is copyright. Copyright has gotten out of control. We don't have a choice. So, you know, anyway, so if you have more questions on how and why and what we do stuff, link it should be in the description for the new intro video, stuff like that. Check that out. It should answer any and all questions you might have. Go into certain other things that we explain about stuff like this. So yeah, that's the long and short of the comment section and how I am. It's like, hey, can people just push the subscribe button and help me out, and hopefully I can turn this stupid thing off. So yeah, that's my TLDR on that. So anyway, I'm excited to push button and get going on Slime here. So people on Patreon, we'll see you on the other side of the edit for the timer reaction. The Patreon reaction is down there in the description. Completely free. It's just a link to the Patreon post. You don't have to do anything. Become a member if you want, whatever, but none of this stuff is ever going to be paywalled. It's just I have to do it this way because of YouTube stuff. Shortest way to put that right now. So the link down there is in the description if you want to watch a timer reaction, and if you're still just watching on YouTube and beyond, like Spotify or wherever else I might upload this at some point, we'll see you on the other side for the discussion and review portion. So yeah, we're going to push some buttons and get going. So here goes something. Well, alrighty then, there you guys have it. We had the wide angle shot, so we'll start on that for another, well, I think I mentioned this in the intro, but yeah, this is going to be 5-core season 4, which I think wraps up the series. I think this season is going to wrap up the series.
Yes, what I know,
that's what the plan was.
Yeah, from what I know, it's between season 3 and this, the source material finally ended, and they decided that instead of just doing their original plan for season 4, they're just going to make season 4 the rest of the series and just keep going until they're done.
Right, and there's nothing wrong with that. Need I remind everybody that One Piece Season 1 was a little over 1,100 episodes. So, just because Slime Season 4 will wrap up the series at probably something like 70 to 80 episodes doesn't necessarily mean anything. So, season can be any duration that you want it to be. If the super baseline is, one core being, 12 to 13 and two cores being, 24 to 25. So, that is what it is. I mean, look at Fryren. The first season of Fryren was 28 episodes. That kind of, it really doesn't matter. So, we're in for a whole lot of slime until the series wraps up, so there's plenty of stuff to get to. Should be pretty interesting, a little about around half of the series, because this was episode 70 something total. So we're about halfway through the series somewhere. But yeah, so where we have Rimuru overlooking Tempest, we talked a little about in the reaction how like people, I've seen a lot of people talk about this between seasons, and I don't mention it here because we talked a little bit about it during the episode itself as well. But a lot of people mention like, oh, they're destroying the forest. They're gonna cause a lot of pollution and all this kind of stuff, and it's gonna, the typical like that kind of discussion. And it's just like, show me where they're using coal power or anything that produces any kind of pollution. First off, that's first off. They're not. Everything they're using is magic. Most of their stuff that we would use that is like coal power or gasoline power or even thermal is all rune magic. As far as we know, none of the magic in this world produces a negative byproduct. It just happens. Now, Veldora's magicules and like excess magicules from powerful beings produce monsters. They're using that to their advantage in the dungeon. But outside here in Tempest, they have that suppression field. Everything's magic. And once again, yes, they have removed a lot of forest, which could potentially raise the temperature, obviously. The Jura Tempest forest is still gigantic compared to this townscape.
Yeah,
and
that's one thing I think a lot
Trainee has said on multiple occasions, and Rimuru has said on multiple occasions, ask her, hey, are you sure we can still keep, expanding? And she said, yeah, it's fine. Every time Trainee has said fine. If Trainee says it's fine, it's fine. You know what I mean? They're dryads. They're the keepers of the forest. Yeah. They know what's up.
Yeah, that's one thing I think a lot of people freaking underestimate is just how big the forest actually is. Like, they are only using up a very small portion of the forest, despite how big Tempest has gotten.
Yeah, like even the roads that they've built to the other nations aren't huge, you know what I mean? And we've talked about the world map before and stuff like that. This world map, if you look at it, it looks deceptively small, but based on travel time, on horseback, they talked about to get from Lubelius or Ruberios, whichever one it is, because L and R's are interchangeable from Japanese to English. They usually call it Ruberios, Luminous's place. It took Hinata 2 weeks to get from there to Tempest. Okay?
And that was faster than usual because of the roads.
And that was faster than usable because of the roads. So, that would mean to me that the Jura Tempest forest, based on that map, has to be at least the size of the entire Western United States. Just the forest. You know what I mean? So, the square mileage of the Great Forest of Jura is, we're talking like, Amazon rainforest. You know what I mean? Huge.
Yeah, but the continent that this world takes place on is massive. And the forest takes up like almost 25% of it.
Yeah. So it is this right here. While Tempest has gotten pretty big, the size of a reasonable like city, a city even the size of like Los Angeles or New York, inside of that kind of square acreage of forest, while yes, it would be damaging to it, obviously, but let's just take out our world stuff and put in their world. Even if they built it up to be like a major city like LA, Tokyo, what have you, still probably wouldn't be a problem, especially with the fact that they're not causing excess pollution. You know what I mean? Generally speaking, when there's pollution in the air, trees have to work harder. In this case, since there's no pollution, the trees are just kind of hanging out. They're still just there doing the thing. They're also supported and tended by the dryads. We don't have that. Do you know what I mean? They do. So I'm sure they're fine. But I've seen this discussion so many times. It's like, do you guys think just because Rimuru is bringing in modern technology from his world that it's going to create pollution like the Magitrain? Like, did you see billows of smoke coming off of it? No, because it's running off of magic. It's kind of like redstone in Minecraft. You know what I mean? It's just there. It's not creating a byproduct that's detrimental to the environment.
Yeah, no, he's just bringing the concepts. It's not the actual things.
Yeah, he's not out there saying, hey, let's go mine coal and use this for power. He's absolutely using, like, clean, green energy, basically. Magic. He's using magic for pretty much everything. He was using magic for his, like, cell phone equivalent. You know what I mean? All the stuff that he was working on. You know what I mean? High-speed communication and whatnot. So he's not using anything that causes problems to the environment. You know what I mean? So I've seen this discussion so many times, and I question, like, do you guys watch the show? Like, were you guys seeing coal power or fracking or, you know, nuclear energy or something? You know what I mean? It's like, were you guys getting this crap? It doesn't exist. It's all magic. And once again, even if they were using those things, I'm sure the Dryad's power could offset that. And once again, Veldora's rolling around, so hi, Guardian of Forest could probably offset that too. You know, a freaking world-level being like Veldora could probably do something about average pollution. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's just one of those things that I saw that, and to that end, there's something that I do know that's coming up in a little bit later in the season. I saw several people that were already reviewing the show as it was releasing in the sub that were already complaining about something, and I'm gonna have something to say about that, and it's in that same category of, are you guys paying attention to what's happening in the show? I understand that change is happening fast. Obviously, they're going from like a medieval culture, you know, like high medieval period, you know, like a Holy Roman Empire period, basically, you know, the 15 to 1700s era of a kind of world, to what is going to be, you know, the industrial era, basically, into the modern, possibly technological age very quickly. You know what I mean? But
yeah, right now they're like freaking early industrial era-ish. Like, they're just starting to get into what would equate to, like, steam.
Yeah. And this is all obviously happening very fast because Rimuru is pushing around his 3rd year since he showed up. So 3 years is insanely fast for that kind of progression technology-wise. Get it. But at the end of the day, I'll save that discussion for when it comes up in the show and have to point out these people that clearly aren't paying attention and why it does make sense. So that'll be a thing that's coming. But, either way, as for the rest of the episode, you know, I can't fathom, a ruler walking around town like an average person. Should be holed up in the castle, just sitting on the throne the whole time, right? Can you believe he likes to be among the people and stuff like that? This is absolutely crazy. What I mean, but it's nice to see that kind of thing. Once again, they're still keeping up with him using his slime form for certain things. I appreciate that. We've talked about that before, so we don't cash that. Him just being an all-around good guy, that is what it is. It's nice to see these like plans and stuff like this for the future Magitrain site, that kind of thing. It's nice that Crunchyroll didn't use, you know, yellow text on a yellow background. I appreciated that. For that, from the Crunchyroll side, they did something right for once. So there's that. Those like extra little bits of information as to what's going on around here. That's great. And then we come to the dungeon problem. Now, to me, this guy is the prime example of people who didn't read the goddamn warning label.
Yeah.
Okay? They did a broadcast about this. They had people lying around. They have the dryads themselves explaining the rules of the dungeon and what is going on. Now, once again, I forget the guy's name. He was that asshole swordsman from the end of season 3 that, was full of himself, but a very capable individual that Also, once again, lest people forget, he was able to solo as much of the dungeon as he could because he basically had GPS as an ability. It tracked things in the dungeon for him and told him where to go. He basically had the new age quest markers in any games that just like, you follow the GPS, you follow Apple Maps basically, or whatever you want to call it, and it takes you to your objective. He had that as an ability, on top of being a reasonably skilled swordsman and fighter. You know what I mean? He was capable of taking down those monsters because while being a giant douche, he was still an incredibly capable hero. You know what I mean?
Everyone else is stuck playing Persona Q and having to manually map out the dungeon. He's playing freaking P5 Royal.
Yeah, pretty much. So that is one of those things where a lot of people probably saw a guy like that and it's like, oh, he can do that. They never broadcasted out there that, he had that ability. You know what I mean? Rimuru and Ramiris were talking about that to themselves. Like, oh, he must have the Pathfinder ability or whatever they called it. You know what I mean? We even saw like the knockoff Kratos and his party. Like they struggled to get past floor 2. And that was a full freaking party of what were apparently seasoned and well-known adventurers. And they couldn't get past floor 2. Okay? And that was a full party of 5. So any random guy like this that just thinks they can walk in and solo the dungeon, yeah, that's not going to happen. You know what I mean? I can understand the frustration, but that's once again user error. You didn't read like I jokingly mentioned during the reaction there was, they need a TOS. Like, hey, here's all the stuff that goes on in this dungeon. You know what I mean? This is going to be fairly difficult. You know what I mean? While I can agree with Masayuki, everything that he talked about later in the meeting here, where he points out like the fact that they could use like a tutorial program or make the earlier floors easier. I can agree with that. It's 100 floors. Veldora is the final boss, so that's going to be a massive endeavor. Once again, we speculated before that to beat Veldora, you probably don't have to actually beat him. It's probably like one of those things of like, you take Veldora down to like 90% of his remaining health. Like they have to do like 10% of his health to him, and then you know what I mean? That kind of thing.
Yeah. The whole thing with this guy just sort of makes me think of friggin', it's the equivalent of like some guy who would probably struggle his way through dead mines walking up to Ubers and wondering why he can't make it through the first pack.
Right, yeah. So it's one of those things that's just, they need a tutorial program. They could probably stand to make the earlier floors easier and then just kind of lower the quality of loot that's in there. That kind of thing, because obviously this is technically to make money for Tempest. It costs money to go in there, and it's you want people to win, obviously, but you have to curb that for the profit. You know what I mean? That 50th floor stellar gold coin as like a bonus, that's pretty huge incentive, obviously. But you know what I mean? Even getting to the 50th floor boss is, what's his name? What was he? It wasn't the horse guy, it was the Minotaur guy, right? There was the two like warring factions. It was the horse people and the bull people, or the Minotaur people. I forget what they were.
I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember exactly what they were called, but yeah, it was the horse folk and the bull folk.
Yeah, and he won. The guy with the horns won the fight, and then he became the guardian to the 5th floor the 50th floor because of that. But yeah, it's still one of those things where the gamer mentality of just certain kind of things going on with this is a good idea to have a tutorial, have certain things, because the dungeon is quite long. As was pointed out during the trial run, while Masayuki's party was just going down and got to the 10th floor or the 5th floor, whatever it was. I think it was the 5th floor, but they got there very quickly and were able to handle it. But that's a hero's party. You know what I mean? Yeah. Everybody in Masayuki's party is incredibly capable. You know what I mean? Including himself, but he's got a whole other thing going on right now. Obviously, it's kind of interesting to see how his power works, and yet he's still terrified of everything around him. Which you can't blame him. He doesn't really know the extent of his power. You know what I mean? It could just not work randomly one time. You know what I mean? So wouldn't you be terrified every time? It was like, well, it worked on somebody, slightly weaker than this person, but wouldn't you still be kind of terrified? Like, yeah, I still don't want to deal with somebody like Rimuru or Veldora, obviously.
Yeah, like he knows it's worked on pretty much any other denizen of this world, but he's never like actually gone up against a demon lord or another elder worlder like Rimuru.
Yeah.
He doesn't know if anyone's just gonna just randomly out of nowhere have some gimmick that anti-gimmicks his gimmick.
Yeah. So you can't blame him for being like super skittish. And why the hell do you think he agreed to stay here? He does not want to have to deal with people constantly hounding him saying, hey, when are you going to deal with freaking Rimuru? Hey, you're the hero of humanity. You need to deal with Rimuru. You need to deal with the monsters. It's like, nah, I'd rather just live here. I'm not doing that crap. Are you out of your mind? So, you know, Masayuki had a couple of good ideas here, which, once again, the dungeon, while it being a challenge, is also kind of like a tourist attraction. You know, the average everyday person might want to try it. And when you go to like a theme park, which this is kind of a theme park in a way, you kind of need a place to, you know, grab some food or go to the bathroom, something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to have a super long dungeon like that, yeah, having certain like rest areas throughout the dungeon is a good idea. Plus, they mentioned the whole thing of like the single use save. So basically, like, he can fuck up once and still go back to, like, only be kicked back, say, like 5 floors instead of have to start from scratch.
Yeah. So, some good ideas from the gaming perspective, obviously. But for the rest of this, you know, once again, it's there for them to make money, obviously. But it's a vehicle for making even more money because, once again, they're also buying items to use in the dungeon. You know what I mean? So even if people are coming out with a lot of equipment and stuff like that, they're still making money off of the potions, the bracelets of resurrection, that kind of thing. And they might be interested in, you know, say, spending money on Kurobe to make them armor or weapons. You know what I mean? Kaijin doing something for them, whatever. Because, you know, they could look at it and go, oh, well, if this is the quality that comes out of Tempest, then I could just, like, go make a custom order. You know what I mean?
So yeah, no, like, that's the big thing. Like, the dungeon is intended to operate at a slight loss. But it still makes up for it in getting the people to spend gold at, like, staying at the local taverns, buying their consumables from Tempest, doing equipment maintenance, potentially buying new equipment, all that kind of stuff. The whole point of the dungeon is to draw people here and get them to spend their money here. So even if they pull more money out of the dungeon, then they
everything else around it made more money.
Yeah, the Tempest still turns a profit, even if they operate the dungeon at a loss.
Yep. So, solid ideas across the board, even if that was what it was. Masayuki died again. Because apparently nobody told him, but he wasn't in the final meeting, I don't think. Or even if he was, I don't think they reintroduced Veldora and Ramirez or anything like that. He's lucky Malim wasn't in the room, because then he really would have died. I mean, Veldora obviously is on par with Malim. Potentially stronger based on being, you know, 4 great dragons, obviously, and whatnot. But Malim is still the daughter of, you know, Veldora's older brother, so, you know.
I couldn't remember if it was 4 or 3. I know it's Veldora, his sister, their father, and his brother? Or was it just the father? I don't remember.
Yeah, that I don't know. I know it's Veldora, Velzard, the brother that is the father to Malim, and there was supposed to be one more. Confirmed. Was a thing. I could have sworn there was 4 of them, 1 for each cardinal direction, basically, or kind of like directional element, you know, like how Velzard's from the north and her element is snow, basically. The ice dragon.
Yeah, I know it was Velzard is ice. Veldora is wind. The dragon, I don't remember if it's supposed to be Veldora's brother or father or whatever, that is in the dunes is the fire dragon, the one who's like way off in the west.
Yeah.
And I don't remember if there's a 4th one or not.
Right. So either way, as for the rest of this, you know, you gotta advertise. You gotta have criers like that guy that are super into it. So gotta appreciate stuff like that. They have their plans. Diablo inexplicably somehow helped Shion not make something terrible without the aid of certain outcome. Because remember, with certain outcome, all of the stuff that she makes that looks disgusting and would be disgusting without certain outcome still tastes pretty good. In the case of this cup of tea, it was totally fine.
Yeah, the whole thing with certain outcome is that she can literally cook anything, and regardless of what it should normally be, it still comes out tasting fine and being edible.
Right.
Regardless whether or not it should be, because she could literally go and take like some of the most toxic things in the world, throw them together with it, and it would come out totally edible. It just wouldn't be appealing.
Right. So, something to remember, I mentioned this at the beginning, with everything that's going on with Benimaru and his two suitors, the two suitors that are primarily at the top for Rimuru right now are Shion and Shuna, because they declared their rivalry in last season, and what they were both doing in this episode was them trying to score points. Okay?
Yeah.
That's why she was super excited in the hallway afterwards, because she feels like she was able to keep up with Shuna after her. What do you even want to call this thing? It's like a Rimuru Oreo kind of. It's like a pastry that has like a jelly filling in the middle, but it's kind of like a bagel sandwich. But it like just the way she presented it. It's like it's got like cake on the bottom and like a slime-esque jelly for the middle with Rimuru's visage.
It's like a pudding in a pie crust.
Yeah. When she gave it to him, it had a pretty good shot of it, but I guess that was before all the stuff going on with the Moderate Harlequin Alliance, which they were just talking about the same stuff that they're always going on about. You know. They're not giving up. So
reaffirming that they still intend to try to conquer the West, but that they have to reevaluate things because of Rimuru's growing political power.
Right. Okay, so here we go. So yeah, I mean, I wanted to yell bagel sandwich, Steven Universe style. But
yeah, it's shaped bagel-esque, but it looks, like I said, like it's made more of like pie crust.
Right. So I'm sure it's pretty damn good, because once again, Shuna has always been good in the kitchen, and let's not forget that they enticed that other worlder cook. He was like a pastry specialist, Yoshida. To come and be like part of Tempest, and she's been learning under him. You know what I mean? Because she convinced him with her cooking, so he he agreed to teach her. So obviously her baking skills have probably leveled up as well. So this is probably the outcome of that. Why she was so intent on finding Rimuru. But yeah, as far as the points are concerned, I wouldn't be surprised if we got the Benimaru stuff as well again this season. Albus and there are so many names in this freaking Hakuro's daughter.
Started with an M.
Momiji?
Yeah, Momiji.
Yeah. So that will probably be a thing, but I'm sure we'll be continuing that. They made a pretty big deal about the rule of like winning over the affection of, you know, whoever in Tempest as like their cultural like law thing. You know what I mean? So that's something they've been pushing for a while, and you'll probably be seeing stuff like this just scattered throughout the season. Shuna trying to score points, Shion's trying to score points, Diablo trying to score points.
Yeah, like the whole thing was that he set some like specific rules. I don't remember all of them for like what you could use to determine your spouse and stuff like that. But that the core idea is that it's a primarily monogamous culture. Right.
Yeah. So either way, we had the stuff that we talked about with the moderate Harlequins, and you know, Yuki in charge of that, which again, super awkward that we've got Yuki and Masa Yuki. Just whenever I say just Yuki, I'm talking about the leader of the guild, I will say Masayuki if I mean Masayuki. I will never shorten that, because I know a lot of people would get confused. I will say the full name.
Yeah, I mean, that was something that we were confused on for a while there, like, because they kept referring to, like, Masayuki, the light speed hero, and kept assuming it was this Yuki.
We thought it was him, and we're just like, wait a minute, so hold on, Masayuki, that's his full name, okay, that's cool, they probably just shortened it, they just call him Yuki, that's fine, you know what I mean, when we first saw this, and we're like, so he's a hero, that's interesting. And then everything came out after, last season, I was just like, this is like all the freaking MF Ghost girls all having M names. Why are you doing this to me? I understand that they're two different names. Absolutely. Masayuki is one full name, and just Yuki is one flat, male name as well in Japanese culture. Both of those are male names. But it's just like, did you really have to do it for two characters that adjacent to each other? You know what I mean? It'd be one thing if it was like, one of the demon lords and then one of the, I don't know, people on the other side. But it's just like, they were both human, both otherworlders that were, are human. So that was they're both otherworlder humans that are big shots in the Adventurers Guild. Yeah, so that was just kind of like, Fuse, why you do this? But yeah, that was the only thing about that. But the main thing that came out of this too, besides them reaffirming it, was the fact that the kids from Freeman Academy are have now been relocated to Tempest and their school that they built. And well, we all saw what happened when Rimuru tried to play principal and come into Hinata's class. She murdered him. So that's a big thing that came out of this, was the kids being and what's her name, the teacher from Freedom Academy. He just picked her up and was like, no, you're coming with me. Probably it's like, no, I don't want you there either.
He basically just like picked up and relocated the entire academy to Tempest.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah, we're not doing that, you guys are getting the hell out of there. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. But Hinata being a teacher, unsurprising, you know what I mean? As much as she gives Rimuru crap for certain things, we started watching the One Piece live action, and I don't know a lot about Smoker in that series, but I know he's a big freaking softie when you get past his, like, normal just demeanor, you know what I mean? Like in the episode we watched last night, a little kid bumps into him and spills her ice cream or whatever, and like the parent is all freaked out, like, oh my god, you got to apologize to the captain, he's gonna freaking murder us, He's just like, oh, seems my pants ate your ice cream, I'm sorry, here, go buy some more. And it's kind of like walks away. And they're just like dumbfounded, and the kid's like, oh my god, thank you so much, and it's kind of bail, and the parent's still freaked out. But that's the same thing with Hinata, she's super scary, but not really.
I mean, she's also freaking a big softie, especially when it comes to anything Shizu related, because she was Shizu's pupil, and now the kids were also Shizu's pupils after her.
Right.
So, while we haven't really seen them interact directly prior to this, it definitely stands to reason with how much she idolized Shizu that she would want to help with them if she's given the opportunity.
Right. So lots of interesting stuff going on in the background of this one. A couple more things to talk about here, because there was a lot of stuff to touch on in this one. What's happening is Diablo wants an underling, so he can do the menial stuff while they do what would be considered the hard stuff. Unsurprising. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see who he gets, because
he just says acquaintance.
Yeah, he just says acquaintance, which... what's his name? The guy who took over the Otherworlder's body, the former, mage leader of Yom's new country, Falmouth.
Yeah.
He's technically his underling, but he probably wouldn't, and he probably wants, an underling that he knows and he trusts, not somebody that's super terrified of him and is, under a death pact thing with him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I remember it's full... No, I think it was Razin.
Yeah, Razin. Because they used
Shion always calls him Ramen.
Yeah, Shion always calls him Ramen. So Diablo does have a couple random underlings that, he has under that, pact of if they ever betray him, they die. You know what I mean? That serious pact. I forget what it was called. But I think he more wants an underling that just, he can. It's just like a normal underling, like you work for me, not work for me or you die.
Yeah, once again, my mind first went to, based on like how he was being evasive about it and stuff like that, and mentions that they're like an associate of his and that they don't have a physical form currently, is Violet.
Right. Because there's still a couple other primals out there that don't have physical bodies. Red has his body. Obviously, he forced it and figured it out, which he in turn gave bodies in form to Blue and Green. They work for him. Black, Diablo, Rimuru gave him the body. And we still have 3 left. Blanc, she is still rolling around, probably somewhere out there in the east.
We know she's active in the east. We don't know if she has a physical form. We just know she's active out there, and that's like a recurring thing of.
That's what happened in the movie with the Tiara Queen. I forget what that one was called.
It's the whole thing.
It was like the Crimson Sea incident or whatever. She did that.
Yeah, it's just she's a known like big threat over there that keeps causing problems.
Right.
But once again, though, whether she has a body, we don't know.
And then the other 2 we do know that don't have physical forms are Violet. We saw her in that same movie. And then freaking John, Yellow. She doesn't have a body, but she messes with Leon's empire by just like nuking it every day. Whatever.
Yeah, she's just sitting down there haunting his freaking little subcontinent and just fucking nuking it whenever she freaking feels like it.
Yeah. So, if it's any of that, I'd be surprised if it was. Well, Violet's the obvious big time one, but he might have like other random acquaintances lying around. But yeah, it would be interesting to see if it was Violet, because they've already come across each other and stuff like that. But I don't know if Violet is one of those kind of characters that would want to do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like we know all the primal demons know each other. Obviously, they can all be considered acquaintances of each other. The thing is, though, like we haven't had any real establishment of Jean or Blanc yet.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we do have like an established relationship between Diablo and Violet that would make more sense from a writing perspective for him to be alluding to.
Right. So we'll just have to see what happens with that. But the last little bit here that we got more on the Rotso family and stuff like that is the fact that Grandfather Rotso used to be a hero of some kind. So that kind of leads credence to the potential that Maribel is an otherworlder based on the very small context clue, but still a context clue of her, saying, I don't want wasabi. She figured out what wasabi was and said no to it in that period of time that she was there? Absolutely. But generally speaking, from a writing perspective, that's just kind of like a hint of what she probably is. You know what I mean? It's not always about what makes sense to a character like her, who is incredibly smart and probably could figure out, like, oh yeah, I heard about this wasabi stuff, I don't want it. As opposed to, I was a kid from Japan at one point and know what wasabi is, so no. We were
immediately suspicious that something was up with Maribel to begin with when she was very first introduced. By the end of last season, we were fairly convinced that she was at least another worlder, probably a reincarnator, similar to Rimuru, because of the fact that it would be the only one that really makes sense, because she was born in this world. She has blood relatives and stuff like that, whereas the other 2 types of otherworlders don't. You're either you're a summon, which is the weakest one. I can't remember the freaking term. I think it was stray, are the ones that just kind of get friggin' Subaru'd, where they just kind of space-time goes weird and they just kind of get randomly
pulled
transferred.
In. That's what happened to Hinata. So.
Yeah, that's also what happened to Masayuki.
Yeah. He was just kind of walking down the street, saw somebody that looked vaguely familiar from this world, and all of a sudden was in that town. So, not like he got truck-cooned or something. He was just walking down the street and it just happened.
Yeah, and then there's reincarnated, which is the person died and was reborn as an entirely new being in this world. Reborn as a slime, Maribel would be reborn as a human, and therefore have to go through the entire, birth and growth process like normal.
Right. So it'll be interesting to see what. Right. Yeah. So while keeping all of her memories, obviously. So that's usually how that works in that kind of fiction. But it will be interesting to see what they do with this. How this season plays out. The Maribel saga should be pretty interesting. The ED for her was very powerful based on imagery and stuff like that they were using for her. So it'll be interesting to see what's done with that and all the other problems that could crop up. So we'll just have to see what happens. I hope there's a lot of interesting stuff going on. Mostly comedy, I'm sure, will be in there because that's one of the best parts of the series. So look forward to that madness. At some point we got to see what's going on with Gobta because he got drug off. Him and Ranga got drug off by Malim to train with their new fusion form, so they're probably dead.
Yeah. We also, the other thing we got established here is that the Rozo family's bone to pick with Rimuru isn't just necessarily that Rimuru's getting in their way, it's that apparently they're human supremacists.
Right, yeah. So that's another problem in this world, so... Well, we got a lot of stuff to get to this season, but I'm looking forward to it. This was a solid first episode for what's going on. These cores roll on, so for the next month or so, we will be catching up with Slime. We'll be doing 2 episodes a week, Friday and Monday. And then once we're caught up, Slime will just kind of take over Monday, kind of like what Don Machi was for us for the longest time. Because we assume that this is just going to kind of keep rolling even after the second core finishes. It probably won't be too long till the third core starts and stuff like that. Because obviously, these cores are done, and they're probably already working on the next part of it. So, by the time all this airs, they'll probably be finished with at least one of the cores, and then they could air it, and then be working on the 4th core, and then air that right after. You know what I mean? Because they did say consecutive cores, and then 2 to start. You know what I mean? So there might be like a 1 season off kind of deal, but we'll probably be getting the end of Slime by, the end of 2028. You know what I mean? Or the end of 2027. Sorry, that kind of thing. Depending on how long it takes. You know what I mean? Yeah. So by the end of 2028, absolutely. It's cool. We had a lot to talk about. It was all relevant and stuff like that. So again, you guys, once again, point out, help me get out of this stupid option hole and subscribe so I can turn this stupid thing off, hopefully, and people can comment. So, yeah. While I'd love to get being close to monetized again and all that kind of cool stuff, I just want people to be able to speak if they want to speak. I don't have a problem with it. You know what I mean? So
yeah, we did get a lot of commenters before, but most of the ones that we did get before were relatively interesting shenanigans, like people clarifying stuff we didn't know the source material on, or questioning about our opinions on things and stuff like that. That was actually interesting to interact with.
Yeah. So I don't want to take that away from people, and I don't have that button. So, push subscribe, help us out. If we get to the point where, I can turn it off, and then, if you don't want to, be around here anymore, you didn't like our content or whatever, what have you, I expect everybody to like us. That is what it is. Then you could unsubscribe. No big deal. But generally speaking, once you unlock a feature, it doesn't get relocked. So even if it's just like a random throwaway account that you could throw at us or something like that, just or whatever. But yeah, that's just one of the things that's I have to gripe with YouTube, because I understand they're trying to protect from, once again, the bots and the scammers and stuff like that, but let's be real here. Nobody with under like 100,000 to 1 million subscribers is going to have bots and scammers, because bots and scammers go after channels that have a lot of viewers on them and read comments. You know what I mean? They probably wouldn't even go after a channel that doesn't average at least 100 to 200, 300, 400 comments. You know what I mean? To get because then they know people are actually looking at the comment section. You know what I mean? Those kind of stupid programs are smart that way. So they're going to target very specific things. They're not going to be the only comment in the comment section, because it obviously, if a scam or a bot is the only comment on one of my videos, like say in the first couple hours or day, I would be removing it, so nobody would see it anyway.
It's kind of a
They want their comment to get buried somewhere where they hope that a moderator or the creator themselves won't see it and delete it.
yeah, it's kind of a double-edged sword for us throwing a bot at a small community, because it's a small community, so the bot comment is more likely to be seen by people. But it's a small community, so it's more likely to be seen by people and therefore get removed.
Yep. So either way, that is what it is. Hopefully we can get our numbers back up and I can turn that crap off. So we went a little bit longer, but once again, slime is one of the favorite things that I like to talk about, so it's pretty easy for me to looking forward to this season, looking forward to doing a lot of slime over the next year, so it'll be exciting to wrap up one of my favorite series, which once again, we're barely over halfway in the episode count as it stands based on what they've announced. They said it was going to be at least 60 to 70 episodes, and if this is episode 73, we're a little over halfway. So very exciting, should be fun. But either way, we'll see you guys on Monday for episode 2, and like I said, we'll be continuing the double features for the next month or so. Basically, all the month of June or early part of July, we'll be doing double features until we're caught up with ReZero and Slime. We'll probably catch up with Slime first, because ReZero's like simulcast, and Slime is usually like 2 weeks behind on the dub, and they took like a break for Golden Week or something, and then there was like a event that was going on, had to hold the dub for or something, so there was another week that they took off. So Slime will be catching up slightly faster, and then Slime will just be on Mondays, and we'll have Friday for a little bit. That'll just be something random, like a Hitman, or if they put out another elusive target, or if Age and I want to talk about like some of the gotcha stuff that's been going on in the first part of this year, just to catch up on some of the stuff that we wanted to do. We'll have that extra day while we're waiting for the summer season to start, to just kind of throw in something random. So that being said, stuff's coming. We're going to be doing it. Should be cool. So,
still waiting. We're definitely catching up on Slime first, but we're still also waiting to see whether or not there's going to be a break after episode 11 on ReZero.
Yeah, but that's another thing. So we'll talk more about that on the ReZero stuff next week. Either way, we've gone on long enough. So, ladies and gentlemen, people of YouTube, beyond however you're watching, as always, we appreciate you stopping by and hanging with us here in the dojo for more Anime Night in the Dojo. And this was Slime, Season 4, Episode 1. 2 Season 4s. Weird. Sometimes it happens. So, have a good morning, evening, afternoon, whatever it is for you. Have a good one. See you next time.
Hey everyone, Victoria here. If you enjoyed the video, please consider pushing those like and subscribe buttons. Your support is greatly appreciated. Thanks again for your time, and we hope to see you again in the future.